The anime began with the arrival of a disaster that was in the future where all humanity would experience extinction. This extinction itself was not caused by a natural disaster or an asteroid that would hit the Earth, but their gods would carry out this human extinction. Then we were shown the gods having a meeting. This meeting was chaired by their superior, Zeus, where this meeting was conducted once every 1,000 years. This meeting talked about whether they did good or not. Due to human behavior worsening, these gods also decided to exterminate humans because their behavior had stayed the same for the last 1,000 years. Shiva and Aphrodite then explained the damage to the earth caused by human activities. That was why Shiva and Aphrodite agreed with the annihilation of humans, and so did the other gods. But when Zeus was about to knock the hammer, a very loud sound suddenly was heard from a distance, and that person was Brunhild. Brunhild herself was a demigod, or what we know as a Valkyrie. Brunhild disagreed with the gods' decision to exterminate humans. Then Brunhild submitted a challenge to the gods. What if they held a battle between gods and humans, commonly called Ragnarok? The rules in Ragnarok were quite simple. Each side would send their 13 best fighters, and if anyone reached 7 wins first, they would be the winner. Hearing Brunhild's words, these gods said what the use of fighting humans was because it was certain the humans would lose against them. Brunhild mocked the gods and said that they were afraid of humans. When hearing Brunhild's sadistic words, the gods were furious and finally agreed to the match. Ragnarok officially would begin tomorrow morning. The match day came when the event was opened and hosted by Heimdall. Then Heimdall introduced the fighter from the gods who would compete for the first time, which was Thor. Thor was the strongest god, or what we often saw with his hammer and lightning power. Meanwhile, from the human side, the first to compete was Lu Bu Fengshen. Lu Bu Fengshen was the strongest human from the plains of China and the strongest hero of the 3 kingdoms. On the other hand, Brunhild scolded someone who was praying because their current opponent was the god they mentioned in the prayer. It felt inappropriate. Then Heimdall blew the trumpet, a sign that the battle between humans and gods had officially begun. Then Thor and also Lu Bu stepped forward bravely to fight. A very unexpected fight took place where Lu Bu beat back the strongest Nordic god Thor. It didn't stop there because Thor also attacked Lu Bu, but Lu Bu could easily withstand Thor's attack. Then Thor took out a familiar stance for the gods, where it was told in ancient times precisely in Asgard, where Thor and the Asgardian lived inside very high walls. In addition, they were also protected by the soldiers, but suddenly the peace and security there vanished when the giants began to storm Asgard due to the unexpected attack. Lots of residents there became victims of the ferocity of the giants, and this caused some of the people there to despair. But when these giants were about to attack Asgard Palace, Thor gallantly stepped out to attack the giants there, and with just one attack, all the giants there finally fell into Thor's hands. Thor launched a powerful attack when he finished with his stance, just like when he fought the giants long ago. On the other hand, Gull, who saw the incident, was desperate. She thought that Lu Bu had died in this terrible attack. But without her realizing it, Lu Bu managed to survive Thor's attacks, and instead, he managed to injure Thor with his staff. Seeing this incident, the gods felt disbelief. How could a human injure a god? Then there was a flashback to Lu Bu's past when Lu Bu was still a child. He continued to wander in search of the strongest person. But no matter how strong the people he met, they were still inferior. Finally, Lu Bu became famous worldwide, so many followers became Lu Bu's soldiers. In the end, he decided to end his life because he felt that no one in this world could fight him. Then back to the current battle, where Lu Bu felt the sensation of fighting for the first time because this was the only time he had met an opponent on par with him. On the other hand, the high-ranking Zeus realized how there might have been a man-made weapon that was so strong that it was able to injure and withstand attacks from gods. Apparently, the weapon used by Lu Bu was a Valkyrie that had turned into a weapon, and Brunhild had anticipated this. Brunhild believed that with the help of the human Valkyrie, he would be able to match the power of the gods. Shortly before this match started, Brunhild met her 4th sister, Rangriz. Brunhild told Rangriz about Thor's 2 weapons, his gauntlet and hammer. Then Brunhild asked Rangriz to sacrifice herself to become a weapon. Rangriz was willing to do that. The match between Thor and Lu Bu was getting fiercer. Their fight was so intense to the point that Thor's glove shattered, and this made all the audience dumbfounded. How could such a sacred object be destroyed in human hands? On the other hand, the human audience cheered for joy because this representative from the human side matched the power of a god. After Thor's gauntlet was destroyed in Lu Bu's hands, all the audience present were stunned. Told in ancient times in Nordic mythology, Thor's gauntlet, Jarngreipr, had the power to withstand the power of Thor's hammer or Mjolnir. In other words, Thor used Jarngreipr to withstand the immense power of Mjolnir, But who would have thought that this Jarngraper was destroyed in the hands of a human, namely Lubu? On the other hand, Hermes told Zeus about the power of the Valkyrie, which could turn herself into a weapon. This weapon was equal in strength to the gods, and this power was called Volunder. When hearing this, Zeus was not angry but instead interested. Meanwhile, Thor was even more overwhelmed in the battle arena to face Lubu to the extent that Thor's Mjolnir slipped from his hands. But who would have thought that Mjolnir could emit lava and beat like a heart? Then Zeus explained the truth of Mjolnir. So Mjolnir could wake up from its sleep, and the gauntlet that Thor wore was not to block the power of Mjolnir, but to block Thor's true power. So in other words, all this time, the notion of Thor's gauntlet and hammer was wrong. Returning to the arena, Thor looked even more furious. Then Thor threw his Mjolnir at Lubu. But who would have thought that Lubu could dodge the devastating attack from the Mjolnir? Even when Mjolnir returned to Thor, Lubu managed to return to avoid the attack. Told in ancient times, this mystical power belonged to Mjolnir was so powerful. Even when Thor threw Mjolnir, this hammer was enough to crush the head of the ice giant that was called Jotun. Not only that, it was told that when Thor threw his Mjolnir, he never missed 100 times. But who would have thought Thor's attack could now be avoided by Lubu, who was only human? On the other hand, Brunhild was shocked when she saw the list of warriors from God's side. But not with Zeus when he saw the list of names of human fighters. He was very excited because all of this was beyond his expectations. Thor released all his anger and strength, and so did Lubu. However, it was unfortunate that Lubu had to fall in this match this time. So this first battle was won by the gods. On the other hand, the audience from the human side mourned the death of their representative, Lubu, and so did Brunhild. She also seemed to be depressed by the loss of Lubu. Not only that, Lubu's horses and soldiers intervened to fight Thor. But we could guess who would win this time. With just one strike, all of Lubu's soldiers fell. On the other hand, Brunhild explained that if anyone lost the match this time, their soul would be destroyed, and they could not return. Hearing Brunhild's words, Gull became sad. Heimdall then introduced the second fighter from the human side, namely the first human on this earth, Adam. After welcoming Adam, Heimdall received information that the order of the second fighter from God's side had been changed. Not long after, Hermes came to the middle of the arena. He performed a song to welcome the second fighter from God's side. It turned out that the one who would compete this time was Zeus. Suddenly, the audience from the human side were surprised when they saw Zeus, who would intervene in the second match this time. But on the other hand, the audience from the gods also highlighted Zeus as GFOC, or the abbreviation, namely the godfather of Cosmos. Zeus was the supreme god of the gods. Zeus also transformed himself from being thin to being muscular. Flashback before the appearance of Zeus to the arena of competition, here we could see Shiva walking towards the arena of competition. But in the middle of the walk, his footsteps stopped because Zeus asked to fight first. Even Shiva got emotional with Zeus because he forced Shiva not to fight first. Let Zeus replace his position, but whatever power, even if Shiva fought Zeus, he still couldn't win, so he was willing to give in. If we looked at the comparison between Zeus and Adam, it was very far, but we didn't know Adam's powers yet. Not long after, a Valkyrie named Regenleaf came, who would become Adam's weapon. This Regenleaf transformed herself into a knuckle duster. This knuckle duster was a weapon that was placed in the hand precisely on the fingers. The fingers would be inserted into these knuckle duster holes. That meant Adam preferred to fight at close range with Zeus. Adam called Zeus a friend and asked, "Where's your weapon, friend?" Zeus calmly replied, "I use my bare hands." After that, the match started, but his first attack, Zeus would initiate it. When Zeus attacked Adam, Adam could easily avoid the attacks from Zeus. Even though it took less than 1 second, Adam could still avoid it after being attacked many times. It didn't stop there. Zeus also issued a move, namely Meteor Jab. This Meteor Jab had a speed of less than 0.00 seconds, and Zeus used this attack to attack Adam. Ordinary humans wouldn't be able to dodge an attack that fast, but when Zeus attacked Adam with the Meteor Jab attack, Adam could easily dodge it. Adam's eyes turned red, which was called the Divine Reflection ability. This ability allowed Adam to replicate enemy movements and techniques and avoid them with high-speed accuracy and speed. Zeus even took out a kick, which he called the Divine Axe, but Adam could easily dodge the attack. Now it was Adam's turn to attack Zeus. Adam issued the same attack as when Zeus attacked him. Here Zeus was successfully injured by Adam with just one attack. After that, Adam issued Meteor Jab, and this attack hit Zeus. Not only Meteor Jab, but Adam could also imitate Zeus' Divine Axe kick. So this kick landed right on Zeus. On the other hand, Ares and Hermes were surprised when they saw Adam's abilities. Meanwhile, the audience from the human side cheered with joy at this. Zeus again attacked Adam, even though Adam could still escape from the attack. Adam counterattacks with the same attack. As a result of Adam's attack, Zeus was thrown far from the wall. On the other hand, Ares thought that Zeus was like fighting his own reflection. Zeus also turned himself back into a bigger one, to the point that when he breathed out smoke, Zeus returned to enlarge the muscles in his body. Here Adam remained relaxed just looking at it. Then Zeus did a fist that issued a yellow fire. Even Eris and Hermes wondered why Zeus used this power against humans. Told in ancient times in a universe, to be precise, at the time of the war to determine the stronger god in the universe or the final battle of the Titanomachy tournament. Zeus easily killed his own father named Kronos. Kronos was a god who was worshipped and the strongest in the cosmos. Returning to the battle arena, Zeus again launched an attack on Adam. His attack this time was faster than the previous one, and it was even so fast that it made time in this world seem to stop. But when Zeus was about to hit Adam, Adam hit him first. As a result of this attack, Zeus finally fell into the hands of Adam. Suddenly, the audience who were there became stunned by what they saw. On the other hand, Ares was shocked by what he saw, but not with Hermes. Hermes was able to see what had happened. Ares thought that if he had practiced for 1,000 years, he still couldn't beat Adam. On the other hand, Brunhild explained to Gull why Adam could imitate the power he saw and even exceeded the owner of the original technique. It was all because of Adam's revenge and hatred of the gods. Told long ago, in a place that was the Garden of Eden, you lived in peace and serenity. But one day suddenly, something unexpected happened. Eve was on trial because she was accused of eating the forbidden fruit there. But the real story was different. It turned out that the snake liked Eve, and he forced Eve to be his. But Eve didn't like the snake. Then Eve finally ran from the snake, and she accidentally made a forbidden fruit fall from the tree. The snake ate the fruit and accused Eve of eating it. In court, the snake presented evidence that Eve had eaten the fruit. Plus, everyone that was there was God. So the probability that humans were guilty was 99999%. The gods expelled Eve from the Garden of Eden. Shortly thereafter, Adam came to court and brought a basket of forbidden fruit. He didn't just take it with him. Adam also ate the fruit and then vomited it out, so that if Eve cast it out, then Adam was also expelled. Adam explained to them that the one who ate the fruit was the snake himself, and he accused Eve of eating it. Adam knew it from the birds that were there. Seeing this, the snake did not accept it, and the snake tried to kill Adam, but instead, it was the snake who died at Adam's hands. That was what caused Adam to hate the gods. Eve and her children were also present at the match arena, making everyone who saw them gape. But when Heimdall was about to announce who the winner was in the match, Zeus got up again so the match couldn't be finished. Zeus asked, "Adam, why do you fight against the gods?" Adam replied, "This is for the sake of my children." Hearing this, all the audience there became moved. They all united and prayed for Adam to win the match this time. After that, Zeus pressed all the muscles in his body so that he became thin again. But this was a problem for Adam because at this time, Zeus would bring out his true power, and his final form was named Adamas. On the other hand, Loki told Odin about the changes in Zeus that had not been seen for a long time. Apart from that, Loki also thought that Adam was not an ordinary human to the point where he managed to overwhelm Zeus. Zeus attacked Adam with incredible speed again, but the result was the same. Adam successfully reversed the attack, and no matter how much Zeus struck Adam, Adam still managed to reverse it. There was a very epic battle where there was an exchange of attacks that were so fast. But suddenly, Adam's eyes started to bleed, and Brunhild realized that too. It turned out it was Adam's weakness. If it were continuously forced, Adam would lose because he would quickly run out of energy. Simultaneously, Adam and Zeus both unleashed their powers. The audience from the human side cheered for Adam, and they hoped that Adam could beat Zeus. But suddenly, something unexpected happened. Adam's eyes were bleeding more so that it made his eyes blind. This caused Zeus to be even more vigorous about attacking Adam. Zeus rained thousands of blows on Adam, and Adam could not fight back and could only withstand them. The audience could not bear to see this. Finally, Adam forced himself to fight, and this could be his last fight. With all his might, Zeus countered Adam's attack, which was also indiscriminate, and the audience there were amazed. Suddenly, an unwanted thing happened when Zeus' body fell. Meanwhile, Adam was still standing strong. The audience cheered with joy. They thought that Adam had won the match. However, it turned out that Adam had fallen in a standing position, so the gods again won the battle. The score in the fight this time was 2-0. Now the position of the human side was on edge. Zeus praised Adam as the strongest man he had ever met. Even when Adam was gone, he still managed to wrestle with Zeus. On the other hand, Brunhild was very depressed by what happened. In addition, Gull always emphasized Brunhild with sweet words. Not long after came Hrist, who was the second member of the 13 Valkyries. Hrist tried to calm the grieving Gull. Meanwhile, Brunhild was frustrated, and she devoured all the food that was on the table. Not long after, Brunhild chose the next fighter from the human side. But suddenly, someone so old came, and the person immediately chose the fighter on the screen. The fighter was named Kojiro Sasaki, or the man who got the nickname of a loser. When she was about to stand up, Brunhild accidentally dropped a glass of milk, and Kojiro swiftly caught the milk with his sword. Brunhild could not believe that what was in front of her this time was Kojiro Sasaki. The next day, Heimdall lectured about the previous match at the arena. However, there was something a little different in today's arena. It looked to be filled with a lot of seawater. It wasn't long before Heimdall introduced the next fighter from God's side. He was the ruler of all the oceans. Even the other gods were afraid of his anger. He was Poseidon. Next, Heimdall introduced a fighter from the human side who would compete, which was none other than Kojiro Sasaki. When Kojiro entered the arena, on the side of the audience, there was a small child who did not accept Kojiro's presence in the middle of the arena. Then the little boy said, "Why isn't my dad in the arena?" Apart from that little boy, other swordsmen were unmoved. Why does it have to be Kojiro Sasaki who went down to the arena? Why didn't Musashi Miyamoto, the greatest warrior, descend on the arena? Then came the boy's father, who turned out to be Musashi Miyamoto himself. He admitted that Kojiro had now reached the position coveted by all sworders. This was the highest position of all swordsmen, namely the number 1 under the sun. The third round had officially started. Kojiro Sasaki had powerful instincts. If he went first, he would quickly fall. So in other words, Kojiro was able to read the moves Poseidon would make. That was why he was cautious in carrying out every attack. Then back to the flashback of Poseidon's past. Once upon a time, there lived 13 gods on Olympus, and one of these gods was killed by Poseidon. God's name was Adamas. Adamas was irritated because Poseidon had been in the most exalted position. Then Adamas asked Poseidon to join him because all the gods had joined him, and only Poseidon had not joined yet. However, Poseidon rejected this invitation, making Adamas angry with Poseidon. Then he immediately attacked Poseidon. However, it was unfortunate that Adamas must fall at the hands of Poseidon very easily. Then they were shown their childhood. When they were small, Poseidon never looked at his interlocutor. If Poseidon stared at his interlocutor, that person would have a tragic end. Return to the arena, where Kojiro was surprised that Poseidon wouldn't look at him and was confused about what to do. Then we were shown Kojiro Sasaki's childhood. Kojiro got a nickname which was the loser. He lived in the Seiden Toda Dojo, Ichijoden Castle Town, Exen, Sengoku era. There was a coach named Kajikatsu Toda. Little Kojiro came too late and the coach scolded him. He then ordered Kojiro to practice with him. But when Kojiro was cornered, he gave up without cause. Kajikatsu immediately scolded Kojiro and told him not to give up so easily. Then Kojiro relaxed and pondered what was wrong with him. Soon he saw a rabbit pass before him, and he followed the rabbit's movements. Apart from the rabbit, he had also learned about nature's true laws that if he were weak, he would be bullied. Kojiro then chose to leave for 6 months. He decided to train alone in nature. One day, Kojiro came back to Dojo Toda. Kajikatsu was angry with Kojiro because Kojiro had disappeared for 6 months. Then Kajikatsu would fight Kojiro, but suddenly Kajikatsu gave up for no reason. The next morning, when Kojiro was chopping wood, Sensei suddenly came to his house. The sensei entered Kojiro's house, and when he entered, he saw what Kojiro had been doing. Sensei was blind, but he could feel the training that Kojiro had been doing. After talking for a long time with Sensei, Kojiro decided to go back to wandering. He went to find the greatest warrior on earth, where the warrior would be invited to practice together. But in every practice, Kojiro lost all the time. That was why Kojiro was called the greatest loser. Returning to the arena, in the end, Kojiro was the first to issue the attack. Kojiro showed the move he had been learning, namely Tsuben Gashi. As a result of this attack, Kojiro managed to cut Poseidon's hair. Suddenly the audience was surprised that his attack was very fast. Then they cheered on Kojiro. It was Poseidon's turn to attack. Poseidon quickly attacked Kojiro, but Kojiro, the greatest warrior, managed to avoid the attack. On the other hand, Brunhild explained to Gull that Kojiro had been through many fights so far. He faced the greatest warriors. That was why, before Poseidon entered, Kojiro could predict his steps, or in other words, the power of Kojiro was that he could predict his enemies' movements. Even Ares, the god of war, was surprised to see Kojiro's abilities. How could a human have such abilities? Shortly after that, a whistling sound came from Poseidon. Poseidon attacked Kojiro very quickly. Even Kojiro was unable to avoid the attack. As a result, Kojiro was injured by being hit by Poseidon's trident. Meanwhile, the god-side's audience cheered joyfully at this. They cheered Poseidon as Jove or God of Gods, but Poseidon didn't like that, so when Poseidon looked at the audience, they immediately stopped cheering him. Poseidon explained to Kojiro that the gods didn't need friends. Gods were perfect beings from birth. Poseidon again launched his attack on Kojiro, and the attack was like rain that came for Kojiro. But who would have thought Kojiro could easily fend off his attacks? Before Poseidon attacked, Kojiro had predicted the move. But suddenly, an unexpected thing happened when Kojiro misjudged Poseidon's attack, so he almost got hit by Poseidon's trident. After that, Poseidon returned to attack Kojiro so fast that it made Kojiro feel like he was hallucinating about being under the ocean. Kojiro got up again and attacked Poseidon with his style, Ganryu Torakiri, but Poseidon could easily dodge the attack. Meanwhile, when Poseidon attacked Kojiro, he swiftly fended off the attack, causing Kojiro's sword to break. Seeing Kojiro's sword broken, the audience there gave up hope, and so did Gull. After Kojiro's sword was broken, he remembered his past with Musashi Miyamoto. When they were dueling, Musashi Miyamoto arrived late. Seeing that Musashi Miyamoto was late, Kojiro took off his sword sheath and threw it into the sea. Musashi Miyamoto said to Kojiro, "If you don't need your sheath, then you've lost." According to legends, that was what happened, and the incident was written in a book called Naitenki. This incident was over 150 years ago, but the real story was different. Musashi Miyamoto and Kojiro fought until the end of their lives. Even the two of them thought that was a delightful moment for both. The bloodshed between them could not be avoided, until finally, it was Kojiro who had to die in the battle. Back to the arena, where Kojiro walked to pick up his sword pieces while he asked Poseidon, "Have you ever cried in gratitude in front of your enemy?" But Poseidon remained silent. With high spirits, Kojiro thought that this sword was humanity's last hope until, in the end, Kojiro's sword, broken into two pieces, now turned into two swords. It was also all thanks to Frist, who was helping Kojiro. On the other hand, Gull asked to Brunhild how it could happen. Brunhild answered Gull's question that it was Frist's power that she had two personalities. After that, they both went back to attack each other. Then there was a very epic battle happened in the arena. Even the little boy who used to look down on Kojiro was now wondering, why is Kojiro like that? Then the boy's father replied, "That's all Kojiro's hard work so far." He even imitated the movements of many samurai he had met in the past. Suddenly, an unexpected thing happened. The attack launched by Kojiro seriously injured Poseidon. Seeing this, Ares and the audience from the god side were shocked, but it was different from the human side, who cheered happily. Poseidon seemed to be enjoying the fight, so there was no expression on his face to show that he was in pain. Poseidon again attacked Kojiro very quickly, and even Kojiro could not avoid it. Poseidon issued a stance called Medusa Elope Demeter, where this stance formed a dome containing a very fast attack. Kojiro Sasaki persistently fended off such a powerful attack. He realized that defeat was not an ordinary thing for him. But suddenly, he remembered all his friends and sensei. This allowed Kojiro to get back on his feet. On the other hand, the audience cheered on Kojiro and hoped that Kojiro would defeat Poseidon. Finally, Kojiro got back up and managed to fend off the attack from Poseidon. Kojiro could read even Poseidon's fast attacks. Kojiro managed to avoid all the attacks from Poseidon. When Poseidon wanted to attack Kojiro, he could easily counterattack Poseidon because Kojiro already knew Poseidon's move, and it cut one of Poseidon's arms. It didn't end there. Poseidon's other arm was finally severed due to an attack from Kojiro. After that, Kojiro launched his final attack, causing Poseidon's body to split into two parts. In the end, the human side managed to win this third battle. It was a joy for all the humans who watched the epic battle. On the other hand, the gods were stunned by what they had seen. How could a human defeat a god? They inevitably had to face a reality that did not make sense. At the same time, the human side cheered with joy mixed with happy tears. It was seen that Kojiro was exhausted and he almost fainted. But suddenly, Riss turned into her own form, and she immediately helped Kojiro. On the other hand, in their place, the gods were discussing the loss of Poseidon. Zeus admitted that humans were indeed strong. That was why they had to take it seriously at this time and shouldn't take them for granted. Shuumatsu no Valkyrie Season 1 ends here. Thank you very much to those who have faithfully watched this video from start to finish. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to my channel. See you in the next video.